All right, San Francisco, we are back with another franchise mode commentary and a pretty massive episode in this one. If you've been following along, you know this is the story of this team is to make the playoffs this year, to be in contention for that wild card. Have had a decent run as of late, just playing a little bit above 500 and brought our record up over 500 with a 58-50 record. Dodgers still holding a firm grip on top of that division. We know this is the story going in, that our division's kind of a bloodbath, and it's going to be hard to win that division. However, we are only a half game back of a wild card spot, with the Pirates, Brewers, and Diamondbacks holding the 3. The Padres and Phillies right behind us, 3 and 4.5, can also make a decent run at it in these 2 months left to play. So the team did what we asked for. We asked to be competitive. We asked to put management in a tough spot in this year, in this season at the trade deadline, and that's exactly what's happened. And as we've gone over so many times, with the core of this team and the shoot for a wild card spot in 2025, hopefully opening up a window in these next 3 years with the way our contracts kind of stack up to kind of go for a World Series title in these 3 years, make a push, land some free agents, spend some money, trade for some rentals in these 3 years, and try and get a ring in there, if not 2. And then kind of reassess as we go along there with some of these contracts, some of these older players aging out, some of the growth from the younger players that we hope to see. So that brings us to this trade deadline, and in looking over our team, our strength has been pitching this year and defense. We are a really good defensive team. That's what we've kind of built our mantra on with the roster that we were given a couple years ago. We've added some starting pitching to help bolster this in Corbin Burns and Lucas Giolito. Webb's having a bounce-back year. Harrison's getting better. We're missing that 5th guy to really help us close out the year. And our bullpen has some decent tools, but it's not a true contending bullpen, especially where our record is and how some of these stats are looking. Our middle relievers need some help. Estevez and Duvall have been a great 1-2 punch at the back of the bullpen as sort of a setup closer. But we need more help there in the bullpen. And then lineup-wise, we are struggling. We are towards the bottom of the league in terms of slugging and home runs. It was kind of expected. Going into this year, we knew we weren't going to have that true thump in our lineup. Of course, the players in our ballpark play a factor into that. But we've had a good resurgent year from Heliot Ramos. But some other areas like third base, for example, Casey Schmidt has been on fire this whole year for us and a big reason we are where we are. But Matt Chapman's the one we're paying $25 million a year to, and he's having a horrendous year. But that's a conversation for the offseason. For right now, we're just trying to make the playoffs. So infield was an area we were thinking about. Outfield, of course, has been a struggle. I mean, Brandon Marsh and Young-Hoo Lee are almost the exact same player and stats-wise. So we thought we could part ways with at least one of them and kind of help our bullpen out in the process as well. So we have a couple of trades here that we've scouted, we've gone through. We think it makes sense for both teams and where they are in the playoff hunt and their organization. And the first one here is with the Boston Red Sox. They have a decent outfield here. They're a little bit further back in the wild card spot for the AL, but still trying to stay competitive without losing too much and trying to help bolster some of their pieces. So Masataka Yoshida is a great contact hitting outfielder, great on-base guy. He's done that throughout his career here in Boston, having another really good year for them here. But with their outfield depth and kind of what they have here in Yelich, in Rafaela, Roman Anthony's on his way, Jarren Duran, Willie Abreu, they have plenty of pieces here who can play the outfield. Yoshida's kind of a DH for them, especially as he downgrades defensively for them. But we certainly could use his contact ability, as that's kind of the nature of our offensive approach. We don't have the thump to go hit it out of the ballpark right now. So we're going to lean into that contact-heavy approach. And you can see there for the Red Sox, the bullpen is an area of need for them. Of course, like we said, they're trying to make a wild card spot as well, and their bullpen also needs some pieces there to help them out. So we're going to part ways with Jorge Lopez. He's on the last year of his deal. He's a pretty good bullpen guy, not having the greatest year for us, but we think he might be leveraged better there in Boston. And as well, going the other way is Jordan Hicks. The experiment with Jordan Hicks of a starter, reliever, we've tried everything under the sun. It's just not working. In fact, he's just kind of been getting worse for us over time, and he's got 2 years left at $11 million. Will help even out that $18 million contract there from Boston. And you can see the trade values even on their side. Boston likes this deal. It'll help them out in this run. They still have Jordan Hicks to leverage for another year. If they want to re-sign Jorge Lopez, they can. And then they get $18 million off of Yoshida off their books for next year as well. We will inherit that contract, and we'll talk more about that in the offseason when we get there. But for now, this is the first trade of a few. Welcome to San Francisco, Yoshida. We need your bat. All right, the next trade we have is with the Miami Marlins. We are going after Braxton Garrett, starting pitcher. He's got a year left of control. He's a lefty. He's not having the best year, but we think we can service him as a fifth starter and maybe a swingman if we make the if we make the postseason. And then Trevor Stephan here as well. Really effective right-handed reliever. Got another year left of control, having a strong year. Kind of the replacement there for Jorge Lopez. Very similar stats, just better numbers on the year. We're going to go out and target him. Going the other way are a couple prospects here for the Marlins as they're continuing to try and rebuild and build up that team. We're giving them Mason Black, who's 25, still has decent potential, lots of years left of control, so we'll see what he can grow into them. For Miami, but we're parting ways with him. We don't think he'll really be serviceable for us anytime soon. Walker Martin is kind of one of the bigger pieces here. An all-around infielder, has really good base stats across the board. He's 21 years old. He's having a pretty effective year there in Double-A. Lots of years left to control for them, and a versatile player for a team looking to rebuild. They can do a lot with Walker. And then Brandon Marsh. We traded for him last year. Didn't have the effect we wanted, and as we looked at our lineup, like I mentioned earlier, Young-Hoo Lee and Brandon Marsh are effectively the same player. We brought in Yoshida to replace that left field spot with a little bit more offensive capabilities. We're okay with parting ways with Marsh. He's got a couple years left of control, can give Miami some versatile options there in the outfield as well. So we think this is a fair trade all along. You can see the trade values on their side here still for this. And that's trade number 2. So welcome to San Francisco, Trevor Stephan and Braxton Garrett. And then finally, we have the last trade here with the St. Louis Cardinals, a team that's not in the playoffs right now. Jojo Romero is on their block, a lefty bullpen guy. He's on his final year. We think he can be effective. We need lefty relievers if we're going to make a run at this to help out our bullpen. Going the other way is Wade Meckler, a center fielder who's having a strong year here for AAA. Couple years left of control. We just don't see him making the major league roster, or if he does, he's just going to be a bench bat for us. We're okay to part ways with him when we have people like Young-Hoo Lee and Heli Ramos and Luis Matos, Santander, Christian Vaquero is down here who we traded for the year prior. So we're okay with parting ways with Wade Meckler to get a bullpen piece that might help us make the playoffs this year. So with that, that'll conclude the moves here for San Francisco. And if we go ahead and simulate here a day ahead, get past the trade deadline, active players on our roster. Okay, we got to send somebody down to do that. I believe Tristan Beck is the odd man out. So he had a rough 9 innings for us. Send him down to AAA. Okay, now we'll simulate a day ahead. Auto fix all the lineups. Today's the deadline to sign draft picks. We've already done that. Okay, and we're past the trade deadline. So let's go through and see what moves were made across the league again at the trade deadline and see if anything stands out. So the Tigers trading away Trey Sweeney for Trey Lipscomb. Kind of an infield move there. We have our trades at the top there. Phillies grabbed Mason Miller from the Athletics for Mick Abel and Robert Moore. I know that's been a rumor for a while, so cool to see Mason Miller end up there in Philadelphia. Another team we're kind of fighting to get that wild card spot. So they're loading up. Astros grab Curtis Mead. Mets grab Sal Frelick for Mark Vientos. So I guess they're going with Brett Beatty as their future third baseman. We went over the Devers one before. It's a pretty big one for the Diamondbacks. Phillies grabbed Ian Happ for Aiden Miller is a big one. Nick Lofton for Jordan Beck. Okay. Couple of other prospect trades here. Just going through the list. A couple of trades throughout this year just to give a storyline. So it looks like the Diamondbacks were very active. I believe that that Gorman one was popped up earlier. Kybert Ruiz. The Phillies and Nationals made a big trade earlier in this year. That looks to be the big ones. So not as crazy as we get further into this franchise mode. But let me go through and make some of the changes to our roster, to our lineups, get everything sorted, and we'll be back to close out this year and see if the moves we made push us into a playoff spot. All right, the lineups and rotation have been taken care of. Like we said, Braxton Garrett gets that 5th spot. Trevor Stephan slides into the bullpen along with JoJo Romero. We did end up extending Carlos Estevez. We gave him a 2-year contract extension, actually cheaper than what we signed him in free agency. We think he's having a great year. We think he'll be really effective. And, of course, it's a contract we can always trade away if needed. But just wanted to get him locked up there for his asking price. Everyone else is either controllable, renewable, arbitration, things like that. And nobody we really want to extend long-term because they're not having that great of a year worth extending. So that'll bring us to the end of the year as Yoshida slots into that 2 spot there. Think that helps extend the lineup a little bit more. We basically just swap him and Young-Hoo Lee in the lineup, and Brandon Marsh was originally hitting here. So that's the way we'll have it set up throughout to close out this year. Have some pretty big series to start. So Milwaukee, a playoff team we're competing against, Arizona, San Diego, Philadelphia at the end of the month, and then into September, we have San Diego, LA, Pittsburgh, LA, for break there with Colorado, then Pittsburgh, Arizona, and Detroit, who's a really good team as well. So not saying we need to get off to a good start here in August, but that September month is going to be pretty rough and going to give a lot of swing to some of these teams trying to make the playoffs. So this is a pretty big start here. We'll see how we do against Milwaukee to start off this run. So lose 2 of 3 there after the trade deadline. Acquisitions going to Chicago now, who doesn't look to be that great of a team, and we lose 2 out of 3 again. Not what you want to see coming out of that trade deadline. Where does that put us in the wild card spot? 2.5 games back now as the Brewers and Reds jump in there. Padres move ahead of us. So like I said, we have our destiny in our own hands, but we have to win some of these games in these series. So traveling to Arizona now, big divisional game here. or divisional series as Giolito gets banged up and we split. Okay. 3-game set here versus San Diego before an off day. Another big series here as AA player gets hurt and Corbin Burns goes down with a head contusion. Must take a ball off the head. Yep. And this is not what you want to see. Coming out of the trade deadline, only winning those 4 games so far. Coming out of doing a 3-7 clip. You can blame the GM. You can blame the players. At the end of the day, it's not going well for us here in San Francisco. So we're going to see if we can swing it together. But Kansas City and then Boston, Tampa, we need to go on a little bit of a run here at the very least to have a chance. Just going to auto-utilize some of these minor league guys. Let them take care of it. Yeah, we just can't seem to really get going here. The only series we've won is Kansas City and Boston there. Still playing a 500 record. Yeah, now 5.5 games back of a playoff spot. Looks like we are going to miss out unless something dramatic were to change here. Corbin Burns is finally back. We're going to immediately get him into that starting spot. We'll kick Kyle Harrison back his start. We need as many wins as possible. And here we are at September. Yeah. So we're just winning 1 game out of every 3 in a series. Blame it on the offense. Blame it on the pitching. I don't know. We need some sort of run here. I mean, we do have games against playoff teams like San Diego and Pittsburgh. The Dodgers are a powerhouse. Arizona. But it's probably very unlikely that we make the playoffs given what's ahead of us and at stake here. So Birdsong will be coming back from injury at some point. But for now, we'll just see who we can call up here to just kind of fill in the gaps. Let's take a look at the minor leagues, see if anybody down here. So AAA's fallen off, AA not doing that great. So it doesn't really matter who we call up. We'll give Blake Sable a chance here off the bench as a catcher. Just throw in this guy into AAA. Just going to have that auto do all those lineups anyways. Michael Bush could be a bench bat. He isn't even having that great of a year in AAA, which is a little concerning. But I know Birdsong will be back soon. Davich has been up here, so we'll call him up and just let everything else sort itself out in the minor leagues. Give them an extra pitcher here to help them out. So that'll probably be it for the minors. So we take 2 of 3 so far against San Diego. Good start. If we can take 2 of 3 against most of these teams, we'll be in a decent spot to get back into the playoffs, but I don't think it's going to be likely. 2 of 3 against Pittsburgh. We need these against the Dodgers. So we can probably send down Davich back down to AAA. Take a quick peek at the pitching. If we want Birdsong in there as a starter, probably just leave him there in the bullpen. Split that one with the Dodgers. All right, so still 500. Yeah, 6.5 games back. It's not going to happen this year. Didn't go on the run we needed to coming out of the trade deadline. Can still play spoiler here. AAA now has too many guys. Looks like AA did make the playoffs. Okay, we'll take a peek at that. Yeah, 5.5 games back. It would take, basically have to win out and need some help. So that starts on the 24th. Yeah, we lost the first 2. So we're not going to make the playoffs. AA here. Just allow them to take care of this. Let's check back on the MLB. Last game of the season for Double-A as well, as they get eliminated and we get eliminated. And unfortunately, that's how it ends for us. Not how you thought it would, not how I hoped it would. We finished 6 games back of the wild card, of a playoff spot. Like I said, not the run you want out of the trade deadline. We were 7-3 in our last 10 going into it. We finished 5-5 in the last 10 there. We can take a look at some of the statistics while we're here. So Yoshida dropped off a little bit offensively since coming over. Santander had a strong year. Theo Estrada, we might be moving on from. Yandy Diaz was a pretty good offseason signing for us. Young Hoo Lee still isn't turning it around for us. Heliot Ramos had a strong year. Patrick Bailey, okay, he grew to an A potential now, so that's good for us. Offensively, a step forward, so that's good there. Luciano, okay. Wow, plus 15 in lefty power. That is insane. Really good vision, discipline, clutch growth as well. Defensively, he's continuing to get better. So I think we're making the right choice in playing him, even though his offensive numbers aren't quite where you'd hope they'd be. But still overall strong year. Matt Chapman really struggled this year. Casey Schmidt fell off towards the back half, starting every day. Okay, Luis Matos as a bench bat this year. We'll see what to make of him. And then Blake Sable in his call-up actually hit really well. Pitching-wise, what do we have here? So Logan Webb did well. Braxton Garrett. Corbin Burns definitely struggled post-trade deadline. That hurt us. Luis Giolito was not the stabilizing factor we hope he would be in our bullpen. Hopefully, or in our rotation, hopefully he can bounce back next year. Chocho Romero didn't help us at all. Okay, so maybe you can blame the GM for some of these trades. It doesn't look like they really worked out, although Camilo Duvall had an insane year. So that's good. Trevor Stephan, more responsibilities. Numbers got worse. Okay. So, yeah, that'll conclude. You know what? Let's get the playoff simulation done in this one. We may as well. I'm just wondering if there's anything else we want to take a look at. Yes, let's take a look at some of the overall growth from some of these guys in here and see if there's anything worth calling out as we go down the list. So Birdsong had a strong year for us in the majors. I think we'll leave him there. I think Wissenhunt will have the chance to make the roster next year. Bryce Eldridge has a strong year here in AAA overall for pitching growth. Hitting-wise, yeah, it doesn't really look like he grows much as a two-way, just a pitcher. Will Bednar, a bunch of our C prospects. Dustin Fletcher, a draft pick for us, is growing. Okay. Some of these other C potential starters having some typical growth. Nothing jumping off the page. Zach Nova. Okay, so it's starting pitchers. Relievers-wise, Aaron Bummer, who I believe is a free agent, we'll probably look to bring him back. He had pretty strong numbers, actually got a lot better post-trade deadline. Scott Barlow is an interesting one. He has been very consistent out of the bullpen, I will say. So that might be a guy we look to bring back along with Stefan, excuse me. Merced was a draft pick. Jojo Romero would probably let walk. Mitch Bratt might make the team. Okay, Stashik had a good year. Davich is here. We have some depth in the bullpen. Nothing crazy. Camilo Duvall had a really strong year. Esteves finished out the year after getting that contract extension. Of course, he's not going to pitch well. Just how it goes. Marshall Jones, draft pick for us, and then Jose Ruiz, Patrick Bailey, Blake Sable, Logan Porter played up here all year. Decent numbers, gives us at least some depth there catching wise. Yandy Diaz, strong year offensively from him, kind of exactly what we needed. Michael Bush, I know we were talking about this guy being our future first baseman, at least with his potential, but Not with years like that in AAA. Theo Estrada, decent year. Definitely a position we can look to upgrade is our infield. With him, Rodolfo Castro, limited appearances versus lefties. Okay. Then we have Chapman. He'll be interesting conversation for us to deal with in the offseason, along with Casey Schmidt, kind of the years that those guys had. Hollis and Jesse Kelsey. Okay. Project third baseman. Luciano we went over. Artejena. Shortstop prospect. Real good growth all across the board for him. Good to see. No one else really there. Cheetah. Colin Barber. Decent growth. Kind of struggled there versus lefties. I believe that's it for a couple more. Lloyd German, another draft pick for us. Young-Hoo Lee. Luis Matos. Elliot Ramos. Ryan McKenna down here. Christian Vaccaro. Okay, this guy had pretty good growth offensively this year, so we need more of that for him to continue to step up towards the major league roster. Vaughn Brown, not really panning out to be much. Grant McCray, decent growth year for him. He's got good speed. Encarnacion, okay. And Tom Flyer, okay. So we can get this off-season window done. Just kind of bummed out that we didn't make the playoffs here. Take a look at some of these league leaders across the board here in the National League. If anybody jumps out in some of these statistics as we are starting to get deeper into this franchise mode. So Jorge Soler, second in the NL in home runs for the Diamondbacks. So that was a good pickup for them. Shohei Ohtani continuing to be at top of the leaderboards. Bryce Harper had a strong year. Corbin Carroll. Yeah, the Diamondbacks were a threat from the start. Justin Steele and ERA. A couple of pitchers. Wow, lots of... Okay, so we had 4 pitchers with a sub-3 ERA in the NL this year. Paul Skeens looks like he might get another Cy Young. We'll see how the voting goes. Logan Webb, inning eater. Strong year from him. Good bounce back. Yeah. Okay, nothing surprising, or at least overly surprising there. So we can get ahead with this simulation. Doesn't look like the Red Sox made it, and of course the Marlins and Cardinals weren't in playoff positions or competing for that. So nobody who we traded guys to made the playoffs. So let's get through this wild card and see what we have in the DSs. So in this year 3, we have the Yankees versus Seattle, who just took out Cleveland in the wild card, and then Texas versus Detroit, who just took out Houston in the wild card. In the NL, got the Dodgers versus the Diamondbacks, who took out San Diego in the wild card. So all NL West there in that side. And then Atlanta versus Cincinnati, who took out Milwaukee in the wild card. Okay, so some familiar teams here. Still a lot of the familiar faces. As Arizona takes out the Dodgers. They've yet to lose in the playoffs. Atlanta beating Cincinnati there for the NL. The AL winners will be Seattle taking out the Yankees and Detroit taking out Texas. So 2 wildcard teams coming through in the AL to match up in the CS, and then the Diamondbacks being the lone wildcard team there, taking out the Dodgers. They finally lose a game. And you have the Tigers versus the Braves here in the World Series. I believe this might be the second time Atlanta's in the World Series in this universe, as Detroit goes up 3-0 in the World Series. It's a clean sweep for Detroit. Wow, okay. let's take a quick look at some of these statistics here for Detroit in the playoffs and see how they got there. Maybe there's some things that we can copy over to our team. So take a look at bats and kind of who took off for them. So Riley Green had an incredible run. Brandon Lau, great run. Eddie's Leonard, okay. Kind of a defensive first shortstop, great utility player. Hit really well for them. Kerry Carpenter. I think I clicked the wrong thing there. Toggle career. Yeah, this is Spencer Torkelson. Anybody hit a lot of home runs. Brandon Lau and Riley Green hit 7. Chase Young hit 6 with 18 RBIs. Wow. Pretty impressive there. So they definitely had some thump in their lineup to get him there. Tarek Skubal, of course, leading the way for Detroit. Outside of that, not great contributions from their starting pitching, but maybe serviceable, maybe one bad game in there. Yeah, in the bullpen, Joey Wentz, Ryan Helsley, Yanier Cano, Jason Foley. Yeah, they had a stacked bullpen. If you're talking about a World Series shaping up bullpen, that's what you want. That's what you'd hope to see out of it. 8 saves, 8 for 8 for Ryan Helsley. Definitely a big reason why they got there. So, okay, let's take a quick look at the awards as well. So Kerry Carpenter is your World Series MVP. And for postseason from the Detroit or from the AL, it was Riley Green. And then Michael Harris for the Braves. We'll go through these awards real quick just to get some of the names on the board for some storylines. Couple of repeat winners here from the NL so far. Not expecting any of the Giants really to make their name felt in the Silver Slugger category. As Santander got second for DH. Now we're into Gold Glove here. Young-Hoo Lee is still playing a strong center field, but not enough to win the award. Brandon Marsh actually gets it after we traded him over to Miami. He took off. Wow. Okay, so you look back on that trade deadline, maybe we made the wrong moves, trading away Marsh, grabbing some of those bullpen guys. I mean, he was hitting 240, finishes the year 270. Strong year for Marsh there to close it out, wins a Gold Glove. That's a tough one to swallow, if I'm being honest, as the GM. Theo Estrada wins the Gold Glove, even though we might be moving on from him, but that's cool for his trophy case. Patrick Bailey goes back-to-back as a catcher. Coleman Carroll with the Hank Aaron Rookie of the Year goes to Colorado. Warming Burnable, third baseman for them. Okay. Camilo Duvall was in there for the relievers, but didn't win it. MVP again to Shohei. And we'll just go through the major awards here real quick. Jordan wins the MVP. Max Fried, with signing with the Yankees, gets the Cy Young. Jordan also got the batting title. Alexis Diaz with the reliever of the year. Rookie of the year goes to Kirby Biggs. First third baseman, more of a DH there for Boston. And then Hank Aaron Jordan as well. Okay. Let's get to the offseason here. Managing contract is up. Couple of retired players here. Nobody going to the Hall of Fame. And here we are. Okay, so we can go out. We can go get a new manager of choice. Probably will be someone along similar lines. A potential with no minuses. Exclusive free agent conversations. Theo Estrada. Serviceable player. Is he worth $8 million on our team for what we need? I'm okay with letting him walk. Aaron Bummer, a strong lefty reliever, had a good year. I wouldn't be opposed to bringing him back. Scott Barlow has been very consistent for us out of the bullpen. He would be an interesting piece to bring back. Jojo Romero, we could probably let go after the year he had, but maybe a depth guy. It'd be interesting to see how it shakes up there, and that's about it. So let's go through and just do this together right now. Holden Wright might be the guy. Jack Ryan. I don't like how it's always pitching. We need help hitting. more than we need pitching. Troy Diaz, power, bunting. I like the contact and plate vision. Let's try out 17 million for Holden Wright. Okay. Exclusive free agents. Let's go back here. Aaron Bummer. Line you up with some of the other relievers here. 2-year deal at $5 million per, and then Scott Barlow as well. We'll bring you back on a 1-year deal. Try 3.5. If you get picked up, you get picked up. Jordan Romero, we can let you go to free agency. If we really want to bring you back, we will for some depth, but didn't have the best year for us overall, and then we need to build on our second baseman if we're letting Theo Estrada go. So Holden Wright, welcome to San Francisco to be the manager of this team. We expect big things. We're going to hold you to a high standard. Yada, yada, yada. Okay, move on from that. Here we are, free agency. Yet again, a team still trying to get to the postseason. I mean, we did improve on our record from last year, but you can see the progress. We are building. We are moving up the chain in a positive way. And we look at what this team really needs to help push us over the top. You'd think starting pitching would be set. We are actually going to have some decisions to make on our starting pitching, on who we really believe can help us get to the playoffs here. Burns, we know, is not going anywhere. Webb, we know, is not going anywhere. Lucas Giolito, we gave a contract to. We could move on from him. We were hoping he'd be a stabilizing force. Kyle Harrison has been slowly getting better over time. He is a lefty, 3 years left of control. Braxton Garrett, who we traded for, could be a very serviceable fifth starter for us, but then if we wanted to save money and trade him away, we still have Birdsong, who pitched really well. Wisnan's looking to get his shot at the major league level. Bryce Eldridge is on his way. Okay, and then we flip it over to the bullpen. Trevor Stephan, we know, will be here for at least one more year. Outside of that, I don't know if there's much here in major league talent. Cody Stashik pitched for us last year and had a strong year, so it's someone we could still use as a serviceable member of our bullpen. But we gave out some offers there to hopefully improve that. And then, of course, we have Duvall and Estevez here as our closing and setup man. Catching, I think we're fine between Patrick Bailey and Blake Sable. We'll probably come back up to the major league roster this year. Logan Porter can be the AAA catcher or one of them. We can figure that out. Yandy Diaz is still going to be our first baseman. Michael Busch, question mark again over him. Do we trade him away? Do we move on from him? I mean, he's 28 years old. Sometimes they're late bloomers, but if you're looking at your future first baseman, I think we might need to move on from him and try and utilize his trade value as best we can. Matt Chapman's an interesting one. He had a really down year offensively after having a resurgent year the year before. Still have him on contract for 3 more years. On paper, he should still be a fine third baseman. But it is an area of weakness starting to become, I would think. Josh Rojas has been a serviceable bench guy for us, utility man. Casey Schmidt can also play that role as far as infield goes. So we have that. Luciano has been growing really nicely for us as a shortstop, so we'd like to stick with him. Yoshida, left fielder. Again, he's only got 1 year left. He actually has a year of ARB after that. Self-control, but a good contact guy at the top of the lineup is kind of what we need. Young-Hoo Lee is more of a defensive center fielder. His offensive has struggled. Luis Matos, maybe we platoon them, maybe we don't. I mean, I feel like he might deserve a chance to start every day. Heliot Ramos earned that spot every day last year. And then Santander here, of course, we have 2 more years left with him, and he's been producing since he got to San Francisco for what we need. So looking at it, it's really that infield, I would say, is the biggest need, infield and bullpen. And then we, of course, have some decisions to make in terms of our starting pitching and our outfield. So let's look at who is available across the board. Quite the plethora of starting pitching and Tarek Schoolbull, Dustin May, Garrett Crochet, Freddie Peralta, Tristan McKenzie, okay. So lots of names here. Relievers, looks like there's a lot to pick from. I think this is the year we can really help bolster our bullpen. Grab some names that might be here for more than just a 1 year, 2 year deal, and really solidify this to be a contending bullpen, a team with some horses on the back end there. We know we have a closer and setup man. Catching, we're fine with. Patrick Bailey's been really serviceable for us. Salvi Perez is still getting it done at 35 years of age. First base. So we do have Yandy Diaz as our first baseman, but we don't really have much in terms of the future. But it also doesn't seem like there's much here for us to go long-term with. I mean, Nathaniel Lowe hits really well, plays a strong first base, but he isn't on the younger side. There's not much here I'm in love with. Second base is the position of need for us. Someone like Nico Horner, another strong contact guy capable of hitting 20 home runs, equally as strong defensively as Theo Estrada. You see that A potential, but now he wants $20-some million, and that's expensive to pay for your third base or second baseman. Brandon Lowe here just went on that run with the Tigers where he popped 41, 118 RBIs. I mean, that's kind of what we need out of our second baseman. He wants $10 million a year. Jeff McNeil, a more contact back guy. Very solid defensively. We go after, and then Theo Estrada, Gavin Lux as well. Kike Hernandez. All right, so there's some options there at second. Third base, we probably won't target much. Again, there isn't really much here to go after, as that looks like a position of need for a lot of teams, as they can't upgrade in free agency. J.P. Crawford's another guy we could go out and get and allow him to play second base. I mean, he looked to have a really strong year last year as well. Ha-Sung Kim is in here, and then a couple of other drops off really badly after that, actually, in shortstop. And then outfield. Again, not a position where I think we need a whole lot of help. Randy Arozarena's in here. Could go after someone like him to help out the bats. I mean, Dalton Varsho, one of the best defensive guys in the league. Chas McCormick had a really strong year. Gurriel, veteran presence. Cody Bellinger, versatile guy who could play in the outfield, could play at first base if needed, but don't like the way his numbers are trending. Chisholm is another guy you could stick in at second base, but I don't know if he's necessarily the solution you're looking for at second. Dylan Carlson here as well. Trent Grisham. A lot of more platoon-based guys I'm seeing. Eloy Jimenez would be a monster of a DH to bring in. That might be the move we pivot to, is running Santander into the outfield. Eloy back to DH. Reunite. Soler had a crazy good year as well from a DH standpoint. Okay, so you get the idea of what's available in free agency. We'll take a quick look at what's on the trading block. Okay, so you have someone like Carlos Correa from the Twins, $30 million, a guy that the Giants have been linked to in the past, and they kind of just let go. So that's an interesting one. Reese Hoskins, not really a spot for him on this team. Wade Jr., kind of the same thing. Couple of outfielders, couple of depth relievers. Okay, so really the biggest one you could say is Carlos Correa here from the Twins. I'm sure they're going to ask for a king's ransom to trade him away. But he certainly would be an upgrade over Luciano, but then we're sitting Luciano at shortstop. So I don't know if that's the move for us. I think we need to go out there and get a strong second baseman and really build up that bullpen. Maybe look at how Eloy Jimenez would fit into this team on our lineup. If we were to put Santander back in the outfield, it hurts our defensive capabilities, and then we have Ramos or Lee or Matos. Somebody's not getting the start because Yoshida will be in there. So, yeah, we have some questions to go through. Sorry to disappoint everybody by not making the playoffs this year. I think it's playoffs or bust for us next year. It's time to make that step. Hopefully some of our division got weaker and we can build up this team. So with all that, that'll conclude. That'll conclude this. So with all that, that'll conclude this video. We'll leave it here in the off season as we always do. Let me know how we should build up this team. Who should we target? Who should we trade away? Who should we trade for to help us get to the playoffs? Because I think the fans are anxious for it. I'm anxious for it. We need to get it done and get it done soon. So for now, signing off. We'll see you in the next one.